The Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. What's up, my friends? I hope you're doing great out there today. This is going to be a fun episode because I am sitting with one of my great friends, Dr. Aaron Nicholas, who's the OG, the original black belt coach, the first one ever. He's been with DSI for 12 years now. He came to the very first summit, probably one of the most frequent contributors to the podcast and to content during our live meetings inside the Dental Success Institute. In fact, recently, he was on stage just last week at our most recent Charlotte, North Carolina mastermind meeting. It was a nice turnout, over 200 people in a beautiful hotel downtown. And Aaron had a really, really cool keynote presentation, and I wanted to see if we could talk about some of the highlights of that. In addition, he and I are about to head out this day, next week, or he and I are heading out to our annual Dominican Republic mission trip to San Jose de Ocoa and surrounding areas. Super incredible trip. I will be bringing my son Brady. Bryce, if you guys remember, Bryce had been coming for several years, and he passed the torch on to his younger brother, Brady. So Brady, will be his second year, so he's super excited to go as well. It is kind of a little bit of a sacrifice because 4th of July used to be my favorite holiday here in my small town of Prescott. We have a parade, we have a rodeo dance, a bunch of people come in from out of town. And that is something that I gave up about 7 years now when I started going on this trip with Aaron. And it is bittersweet because everybody in town is getting ready for all the festivities, and Brady and I are getting ready to head out of town. But I don't think there's anything that compares to the reward and the incredible experience that we get in the Dominican every year over the 4th of July week. So, Aaron, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you today.
Yeah, doing good, Mark. Doing well. Yeah, I was super impressed because I had invited you a bunch of times, and then once you went once, it was like you got it, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep coming back. This is really great stuff. Yeah,
this is one of the cool things about having an iPhone is that you get those reminders, this week, 7 years ago, and it'll show you like a montage of pictures or whatever. And gosh, man, it was 7 years ago when I started coming to this, and there's a picture of me and Bryce and all of like the old gang and a bunch of dental students that are now like established doctors, practice owners from that first trip. And it's a trip. It is really weird how time works because I don't feel like I'm any different, but Bryce now is 7 years older. He's he's a sophomore in at San Diego State, and like time continues to move, Aaron, even though you and I feel like we're kind of in the same place. It's not the same place like developmentally or like from a personal growth perspective or anything like that. But I mean, I still feel young. I don't feel like I've aged 7 years since I started going on this trip. And you've been going on for how long?
Since 1986. I didn't go for about a 10-year period while I was building my practice. So I think I'm up to like 28 or 29 trips at this point. But I definitely feel that, I don't have kids, but as I see my friends' kids getting older, I'm like, oh, I must be getting older. But I don't have the day-to-day reminder like you guys with kids have. But I didn't realize you've been coming for 7 years.
I know.
Man, that's been a while.
Isn't that weird? It is so weird. But so awesome at the same time. Like, we have our little posse of people that have been there every single year that I've been there. Yep. And then we have students that kind of rotate in and out. And it's just, Aaron, I've been on several now to the first and only international mission trip that I had ever been on 7 years ago was yours. And now I've been on several. And the level of sophistication and just technical kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? logistics that go on behind the scenes in order to pull off 5 pop-up clinics in 5 days and do the amount of production that we're doing. We do $100,000 a day on average when we're out in the field, and we are loading up trucks every single day from headquarters, and we are literally bringing generators, water, equipment, supplies, and providers. We're popping up it takes us about 45 minutes to pop up, and then you start triaging patients to the different departments. We have perio, pros, oral surgery, pedo, and then hygiene as well. And we just churn patients through our little pop-up clinics. It really is a sight to behold. No matter what the weather is, we've done it in pouring rain. We've done it without any walls. We've done it under tents. We've done it in the sunshine. We've done it with flies and mosquitoes buzzing around our heads, with no electricity and no fresh water. It's pretty amazing what you guys have been able to do in the period of time that you've been doing it. 42 years this year.
Yeah. It's been 42 years since Frank started it. Yeah. It lets you see how little you really need to do decent dentistry. And then we're doing, at the beginning, it was just taking out teeth and then doing some fillings. And then it evolved from there. And then a number of years ago, when the technology got better and the product was there, we could actually start making dentures and replacing teeth that we had been taking out for years and years and years. Yeah. And then we also do flippers. The local dentists come out and work with us, and they are wicked fast at bending wire and creating those sprinkle base plates for patients. And then now we have a whole perio crew. And last time, I don't know if you saw that guy or not, that little guy that they ended up doing a gingivectomy on. And like the before and after was crazy. Like he just looked so much better without all that extra gum tissue hanging over his teeth. I mean, it was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, you think about, what is the medication that causes that?
Dilantin.
Dilantin, which is a seizure medication. You guys have seen it. All of you dental professionals out there have seen pictures of what Dilantin does as far as gingival hyperplasia. And this kid came in like a textbook case of gingival hyperplasia. And guess what? We had 4 periodontists there. So they're like, oh, we'll take this case on. And they were just like, they felt like they were at home, because this is what they do every day at home with massive surgeries. And it was cool doing that, like on a flat, like literally a flat Costco table with no suction, with a 15 blade, and very little lighting, like none of the accoutrements that we have in our surgical suites back home. And like you said, the result was amazing. Like, it changed that kid's life forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and it was funny too, because the Tiffany, who is of Tiffany and Ryan, both married, both periodontists. She's like, I love my husband very, very much, so I'm going to let him do this case, because they all 4 were chomping at the bit to get at this kid. Brian got the long straw, I guess, and got to go do it. But it just looked amazing, the before and after. What a difference in this kid's life. He lives up in the hills, and nobody ever comes up there.
Yeah.
And so unless we had come up there, he probably would live that the rest of his life.
For sure. And I have been in the trenches with you and Kristen and Shannon, and especially the 2 Harrises. For whatever reason, even though I make dentures, I'm in the pros department on this trip, I'll get the tap on the shoulder, like from somebody going, hey man, I am exhausted. I've been battling this root tip for like the last 45 minutes. Can you come in here and give it a shot? I've gone to battle for mandibular impacted wisdom teeth with both of the Harrises, periodontists who take out teeth and wisdies all the time. And Shannon and Kristen and you, even last time you were just beat. You came over and you were like, your t-shirt was drenched in sweat, like literally drenched in sweat. You're like, I'm going to work at this for another hour and I'll get it out, but you want to give it a shot? And I came in there not so fresh myself, because I think I had done like 18 or 20 dentures that day. And it was towards the end of the day, I went in there and I dug at it for a little bit. And I got the glory of getting that last bit of root tip out there. But dude, it is hard work. I walk out of every single day in the jungle with like knuckles like dragging on the ground, exhausted, but in the best way.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like for people listening to this, it's like we don't have a handpiece. Okay. So we could take that patient and move them over to operative, but then we have to kick somebody out of operative. So typically we're removing bone with hand instruments. And
Mhm.
I think I had taken out 3 that I had dug out that day already. And I was just beat. And you came in like, can I help? And I'm like, yeah, dude, you can. Come on over here.
You've never ever send me away. Like if I feel like a little surgical itch because I've been trimming dentures all day, I just go over and you've never ever said no. You always put me to
No,
work in oral surgery.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's our goal. We can hook you up. That's not a
I got
problem.
you.
We
I
will
got you,
find you a
man.
case.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to come back to this, in closing, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your presentation in Charlotte. It really resonated with a lot of people. And you did that reverse thing where you said, here are the things not to do. Or here's a sure way to not be successful in your dental practice. So you had to kind of
Right.
think in reverse. So the context was, here are the things. He's going to list out for the next 45 minutes all the things not to do. So I have to think conversely to do the opposite in order to be successful. And I thought it was a really cool hook. And you had to remind yourself. In fact, you were talking in the pre-chat about Kay coming up to you saying, oh, there was a couple of those are like, oh, I don't agree with Aaron on this one. And she's like, oh, wait, I'm not thinking in the converse in this. I'm not thinking opposite.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what your topic was, what you talked about, and maybe some highlights. So if people are interested in listening to it, they can get kind of a preview, or if they don't have time to listen to your entire 45-minute, presentation in a future podcast, they can get the gist of it.
Yeah, it was the title was How to Keep You and Your Associate Inefficient, Unproductive, and Miserable, was the title. And so then I just and the very first thing I started out was a couple of different quotes. One was, you can't be upset about the rewards you got for the work you didn't do. One was, whatever excuses you argue for, you get to keep. Henry Ford, whether you think you can, you're right. And those kinds of things. And then went into, this is what it looks like from a dental perspective. It's things like, well, my area is different. Well, in my hands, that won't work because of this. Well, and all the things that we say as dentists, that make it okay that we didn't do the thing. And my, as a matter of fact, I started the talk. I said, this is my best hack for going to courses and seminars and making sure that you actually get stuff done. Take out a blank sheet of paper,
The one sheet.
one sheet, close your notebook, and I want you to write down on the paper as we go along the things you want to do and that you're going to commit to do. And then when you get home, take the paper and take a thumbtack. I'm a big fan of the thumbtack, and stick it on your wall or your corkboard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And as you do them, someplace you're going to see it every day. And as you do them, check them off. And you don't have to take the paper down until either everything's checked off or you've decided that's no longer a valid goal. And so I'm consciously saying I'm not going to do it. It's not just drifting off, but I'm consciously not going to do that. So that's how we started it. And then I just went through a number of different things. And then I talked about things about how to make, as a doc, how can you be more efficient? We talked about batching procedures together, even to the point of, you take up your high-speed handpiece, you don't put it down until you're finished with everything you can do with the high-speed handpiece. And even within the high-speed handpiece, when you put a burr in, you don't change burrs until you've done everything you can do with that burr.
Mm-hmm.
And going through like that and keeping that framework. And once you start thinking like that, you're going to have to rearrange some pieces, because that's just what happens. That's how I ended up doing the 1-hour mobile canal built on the crown. Was I read the article. I said, okay, if I really believe this, I have my high speed. What can I do with this before I put it down? And that's how we started prepping the crown first, because, I can't do the access opening and then come back. And so I want to do that first. And we went through like that. And I gave them a couple of different exercises. I also suggested timing, both the appointments and the procedure. So how long does it take for crown and bridge appointment? And then how long does it take you to actually perform a build-up and crown for your time? And then you can look at are there things that I can do to rearrange the pieces of what I'm doing? And I said, hey, write them out. It's a lot easier to see it if you write it out, because right now you do what you do and you don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with appointments, look at things like, we were supposed to start at 11. The patient's butt actually got in the chair at 11:15, and that's when the appointment starts. Okay. And then when did they get out of the chair? And what happened in my first 15 minutes? Okay, I've just burned up 15 minutes. What happened? Do I need to make financial arrangements earlier? Do we need to make sure that, the patient needs to come in earlier so we can take care of that? Or do we need to make sure that we do that before we put them on the schedule? All of those kinds of issues come in. Was the room set up properly? Were we ready for the patient? All those kinds of things. And so you can start to see, where am I losing time? And then once you start measuring, things will get better just naturally, because it's almost like somebody's looking over your shoulder. So if all you did was like measure your time to do a class 2, or your time to prep a crown, or your time to do whatever, and you just kept measuring regularly and reviewing it, you'll actually get faster, because you stop just like piddling around. And we as dentists want everything to be perfect, and that's cool, but we also piddle. We do things that don't really make a difference to the success of our treatment, nor things that anyone but us is going to notice. The patient's not going to notice. Another dentist looking at it wouldn't notice. It's just us for our own sort of comfort. But there's all you have to do is measure and review, and you'll get faster just doing that. You'll become much more efficient.
I mean, the whole concept is so attractive to me. I mean, it is exactly the way that I think, right? So we were all introduced to this whole concept of Parkinson's law early on. Like, a task will swell to the amount of time, or will extend to the amount of time that you allot for it. So if you say that you have 3 months to write a term paper, it's going to take you 3 months to write that term paper. And a lot of times, like if you're anything like me, it's going to take 8 hours. It's going to take the last 8 or 9 hours of that 3-month period of time before you're going to get done with that term paper. So a task will swell to the amount of time that you allot for it. I have a friend named Nick that always used to say, if you wait till the last minute, it's only going to take a minute. So he was a proponent of procrastination, but I mean, there's a bunch of levels of like, well, what's the quality going to look like, and what's your stress level going to be like all along the way of procrastinating. Sometimes it's better just to get it done. But I remember that I had this, operative instructor in dental school, and he would come over and he saw me just kind of feathering on a crown prep, or, switching burrs in and out. He'd just stand over my shoulder and he's like, man, you could do that a lot more efficiently if you just kind of finished what you were doing with one burr before you moved on to the next and never went back. And for me, that was like an epiphany, like, okay, Parkinson's law, right? I have 3 hours in the afternoon at dental school to do this MOD. I'm going to take every bit of that 3 hours, or you could just kind of challenge yourself to not rush, but be as efficient as possible to see how quickly I can get this done in a really, really, really high quality manner. And that's what dentistry is all about. Like, currency, time is the number one currency in life, but especially in a dental office, right? If you had a fee for service office, but efficiency still is the difference between an average office and an exceptional office, and the amount of, growth and evolution that you're going to experience throughout your career, I believe.
Yeah. The other thing is, every time I start talking about efficiency or getting things done faster, the first thing that pops up is dentists go, oh, well, what's the quality like? I wouldn't want that done for me if it's like that. Or it's like, well, I don't want to be rushed while I'm working, And so, and the question I always have back is, you don't want to be rushed while you're working. That's an assumption that you have to rush. If we can reorder the pieces and it happens faster, and you're working at the same pace, that shouldn't feel like being rushed. So I actually showed a video of me going in doing a hygiene exam, and we have a very specific way of going through hygiene exams. We are in and out in less than 4 minutes. And I asked the audience, did that feel rushed? And it doesn't. But if you know where you're going, straight line, shortest distance between 2 points. I need to go through all these things. And if I do that purposefully, then I'm going to go through a lot faster than if I just sort of meander around and try to figure out my way, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second thing with that is, like, a lot of times I'll have docs, okay, you want to speed up your crown prep, get 5 extracted teeth and prep them all in a row. Prep all 5, do one tooth, then do the next tooth, and then time each one, and then see how your time changes. It always goes down. But then number 2 is see what the quality looks like from tooth 1 to tooth 5. And guess what? It's the same, because you're the same person.
If not better. Better. I mean,
true.
Do you feel as though, this was another epiphany for me. It's like, if I take an hour and a half to do a crown prep, or I have, 25 minutes to do a crown prep. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I
Sure.
felt, when I started timing myself that the efficiency obviously was improving, but the quality was sustained or even actually better because you're focusing in a finite period of time, and it heightens your senses, and you're looking for things in a very short period of time to basically gauge the quality of what's happening. So if you have 25 minutes to come up with a really good product, I feel like there's a level of focus that you don't get if you're giving yourself too much time for that same task.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that once you get used to working at a more efficient pace and the way you do things, if you then back up and go back to your old ways, I agree 100%. Things aren't as good. Which for me is like when they schedule me for something and I know I have plenty of time, I try to pregame with my assistant, say, hey, it says we have this much time, but let's see if we can't do it in this much time, so that I create an artificial time barrier for myself. So I'll have that same level of efficiency as we're going through. I mean, this is the old thing from, man, this is really old now, from when Toyota started working with Deming and doing the total quality management thing. And they started churning out cars faster than Detroit at a better quality, to where you could get a Toyota that would run over 100,000 miles. And back in the day, American cars, you were lucky if they ran 100,000 miles back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's common because they've had to up their game because another player came in that was kind of eating their lunch. And so it's improved the whole genre, the whole market as a result of it. But Toyota proved that you can produce a car faster with higher quality and that will last longer, simply by making sure that you have all your processes locked down.
Yeah. It is interesting that you alluded to kind of like the doubters that say, well, it's impossible to do X procedure in X amount of time. What's the quality look like? Um, it reminds me of when you and I went to New Zealand and we did an event in New Zealand. We went to Sydney and Auckland,
Yep.
New Zealand. Do you remember? I mean, we were talking about efficiencies and we were talking about overhead control and we were talking about running like a solid business. And these people in this crowd, and I'm just generalizing here. I'm not saying New Zealanders in general, but the people that were in the room this day, and it was a pretty full room, looked at us like we had like three heads because I was talking about overhead control. You were talking about efficiencies, and they were just fighting back, like saying, well, if you do a cleaning in less than an hour and a half, aren't the patients going to perceive that you're rushing through it and that there's no quality to that cleaning? I'm like, are you kidding me? You're sitting here telling me that you guys sit there and pick at teeth for an hour and a half for a cleaning and you think that's a better service for the patient? And they said the same thing about everything. They said in our culture, and this is just this room, but this is what people were saying. In our culture, we equate the amount of time it takes to do something with the quality that they're going to get on the back end of that. And I was like, I throw my hands in the air and there's just nothing I can do to convince you guys. If this is a cultural thing and this is set in your head, there's nothing I can do. And then when it came to me, my talk was about, lowering overhead, just kind of looking at your P&L and looking at the categorization. And here's some kind of general rules about percentage of categorization, like for fixed expenses versus variable expenses. And they're like, well, we pay on average about $380 per unit for our crown and bridge. And I'm like, well, you can get that for $60 and it's really high quality. They're like, well, what about the local economy? What about my relationship with my lab tech? What about, and I was like, well, you can what about me all day long. I'm just telling you that you're running inefficient businesses. And that was a difficult day for you and I because we got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, and then you're back to, guess what? You get to keep all the excuses you argue for. I mean, this is literally the classic case of this. But I'm talking about efficiency, and they're like, well, why would I want to be faster? I'm like, so you could go to the other room, which they call a surgery. So you go to the other surgery and you could do it again over there, and you can make twice as much money by taking your hour and a half build-up and crown procedure and shrinking it down to an hour, of which you only have to be in the room for 20 or 30 minutes. And then again, we had the time in room conversation. At the time, nobody was scanning for crowns, or very few people were. And at the time, I said, you could take an impression, you could put it in an envelope, send it to California, get them to make the crown for you, send it back, and it would be cheaper than what you're paying for now. And then we heard the local economy story. And I'm like, at some point, I can't help you. At some point you have to want some piece of this. And they really didn't. I mean, they really didn't. And then I had paper slips that we used to communicate back and forth. And the one guy was like, "Do they have any trees in America?" I was like, "No, I have deforested the entire country by my forms that they get put out there." Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember every single minute of that day. And once again, this is this room. It could have been in any country in the world. This was this particular room. We're not disparaging any country, but this was a tough room for you and I. I remember looking over at you and Jason going, "Is this for real? Like, am I getting punked right now? Like, seriously, is there like a hidden camera where there's just people raising hands just to argue for the sake of arguing?" Like, when you tell somebody that you could get the same service of equal quality done at 1/6 the price and they fight you about that, it's like, wow, okay. I think we're done here. I mean, what do we talk about now?
How about half the price? Is that better?
Yeah. I don't know. You're like bidding against yourself.
Yeah, we did go from New Zealand to Australia, which was better. It was kind of like in the middle. They still weren't quite buying into it, but some of the ideas they liked. I think that they were feeling the push of insurances and that sort of thing a little bit more than New Zealand was. I think New Zealand wasn't feeling it at all.
Yeah, they don't have dental insurance in New Zealand.
Yeah. And so Australia was feeling it a little bit. So they have a little bit more of a mindset like that, but very different than the States, for sure.
Yeah, interesting that even though we had a ton of pushback and there's a lot of spirited debate, I still talk to a lot of the people from that trip. So I made some lifelong relationships there, and a lot of those people listen to the podcast, which is why we were there in the first place. And I do wonder, like, you invited me here, like, based on finding out about us on the podcast. So you'll listen to the podcast, you understand some of the themes that we talk about, right? Like, why are you acting as though this is like such new radical information? It was interesting. So anyway,
it's been like 10 years. I think we need to go back and do it again and see what happens. Has anything changed? Are we in the same boat? I don't know. Well, it wasn't too abusive. I think we were fine. It was actually done very good naturedly.
Yeah, it really was.
I think it would be interesting to see if we went back, if it would be the same or not.
Yeah. And hey man, whatever excuse is necessary to get back to New Zealand and in Australia, man. I'm going to Fiji actually at the end of August this year, and I'm super excited to just be in that side of the world again. Gosh, I don't know.
I say me too. Me too. I'll be there with you.
Absolutely. Oh, that's right. That's right. You're going to be trip, right? You're going to be in the first week of the mission trip. Yes, we're going to be there together. That's going to be fun. Yeah, and okay, so let's kind of transition back and forth. We can toggle back and forth if you like, but let's talk about mission trips again. What a cool way to turn the page on a career well lived, Aaron. Like, I mean, you've been doing this for over 30 years now. And now you're going to start with, you're one of the board members of Smile Outreach International. Now you're going to start going on different trips, and you find yourself with more bandwidth and more available time to travel to do this sort of thing. I remember the first time I went, you were kind of warming me up to the idea, and you said something that stuck with me. And you said, when I get on the plane flying home from the Dominican Republic every year, I have a sense that those people gave me more back than I gave to them. And I feel that every single year. That what you said to me has stuck with me over the years. And it really, really is so true. And I do reflect every time I'm coming home. I'm like, wow, I feel so grateful that I got to do that. And, once a year for me just isn't enough. I'm super excited that I'm going to be able to travel with so many of my friends to these great places and deliver this kind of care. My vision is a little bit different. I want to create permanent, sustainable facilities throughout the world. So you're coming with us, I think, in October to do kind of a scouting trip. We're going to look for land or a building in Mexico so that we could build a sustainable building and have a mission trip that we can rotate other mission trips through and our own people through on a regular basis. So we did that in Tanzania. We found a place that had already been built out, and we are now going to rotate through that place in Tanzania with the existing founders of that particular charity. And we want to be the founders of a few permanent locations. Henry Schein is going to be supporting us to build a permanent facility in the Dominican Republic. I'll tell you more about that, Aaron, which is attached to Kristen's husband, who's a orthopedic surgeon. They work out of a hospital there. They want to help us build a permanent, sustainable clinic there, where they're going to have local docs seeing the post-op patients and teeing up treatment for us for several trips per year. But that's kind of my vision. I want to make these things sustainable, not just one and done, and having to leave a town and the people that are the residents there wondering if we'll ever come back or when the next time we're going to come back is. So that's kind of my vision for what I want Smile Outreach to be, in addition to kind of trips like the DR trip that we're currently going on.
Yeah, it's funny. The year that I sold my practice, we had a big dinner at my house, and someone said to me, "Well, what are you going to do now that you're retired?" And I said, yeah, that's in quotes for sure. I said, I would love to like travel the world with my friends and do good. And I'm like, and I didn't have mission trips in mind when I said it. It was just like, this is kind of, if I look deep inside, this is the thing I really want to do. And this is kind of it. It's like, I get to go all over the world and do mission trips. Usually I know the people on the trip and we're friends, or we will be very soon. And then you get to do some good in the world for some other folks. And so that works out very nicely. And that's morphed into, I want to teach and those same things. And so that's kind of where I'm headed to. And maybe at some point, because I have an upcoming course for surgical extractions. Most of what I learned about teaching that course was from teaching dental students who've been coming on this trip year after year after year. And if we get a handpiece, woohoo! That just makes life easier. But I've been teaching them with hand instruments and removing bone and doing that sort of thing. So yeah, all of this, all of these different desperate parts of my life are coming together to create this thing that I want to do. Having given up running a dental practice, and then allowing me to kind of go and do and see that. I'm super excited about the one we're looking at as far as building in Mexico, because I feel like that's a lot more accessible for a lot more docs. And just like you, every time I sit down and I start talking about a mission trip, the next question from whoever I'm talking to is, can I go? How can I go? And with the DR trip that we're running for years, a lot of times there's not a lot of room. So it's nice to create trips that have plenty of room and that are very accessible, and that, the guy's got a wife and 2 kids. Well, she's not going to let him burn up the family vacation going off and doing mission trips. Most likely, some will.
Yeah.
But
and vice versa.
Like get out on a week.
Yeah.
If he could get out for a few days or on a weekend to do something like that, then it makes it much more accessible for folks that want to do that.
Yep. I love that. Gosh, it reminds me, we really do got to integrate some hand pieces into oral surgery. You and I were talking about that. I'll talk to you about that off air. All right.
Sure.
So, what is the surgery class entail? What is the date for that? Is there kind of a set date, and what is the curriculum going to look like?
Yes, there's a set date. So it's in Florida. The issue with doing a surgery class is you need to find humans that want teeth taken out. So I had gone down to Ocala to work with a buddy of mine who does a charitable day of surgery every single month. And while I was there, I asked the woman who was running that, I said, so if we just wanted like extraction patients, can you do that? She's like, well, how many do you need? I'm like, 15 doctors. I need 65. She's like, I need 45. And she's like, great, we're gonna schedule 65 because they tend to kind of fall out. And she works with the population that can't afford dental care. And so they, as a group, have some sort of a grant, and they bring everything into his office. They bring instruments and people and autoclaves and set up, and then they just have a day of doing nothing but dentistry.
That's so cool.
For this, yeah, it's Freedom Clinics. And if anybody wants to start one in their town, she's like, I would love to train people to do this. And let's see, you're asking about dates, so let me get this for you real quick.
Where's Ocala?
It's about an hour and a half from Orlando or Tampa. I
Oh,
fly into the Tampa airport simply because it's a lot less busy. And so that works out great. So it's October 5th and it's on a Saturday, and we're running the 1 hour mobile build up and crown the day before. And you can do either one separately or you can do them together. But if you're going to go for the extraction course, there's going to be about 8 to 10 hours of lecture online that you need to go through and answer all the questions so you get your CE. And then so that day on Saturday, all we're doing is extracting teeth. We'll do a short preamble, but then we're just going to be treating patients. And there's going to be me and Simon Amir, who's my buddy down there. He's been doing those freedom clinics, and he taught at the dental school and loves to teach. So he'll be there. We may have some other docs, but it's going to be pretty straightforward. And then go through that. Everybody will need a visiting doctor's license. It's not hard to get, but it takes a little time. So it isn't like the root canal course where, the day before, if you decide you want to go, we can probably accommodate. You sort of need to make that decision at least 2 weeks before the Ocala course. So that would be mid-September. You have to sort of have made your decision so that we can then get all the stuff out and get the board to issue a license, et cetera, et cetera.
okay.
So it takes a little bit more planning.
I might have to pop in, get a little cameo, like just to have fun, an excuse to get down to Florida. I love Florida in the wintertime.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
Awesome. What else do you have going on? Is there anything else, any other upcoming courses before that one that you wanted to promote while we're still on the?
Yeah, we got a lot going on. We have another 1 hour mobile root canal build up and crown course in Denver at the end of August, and that's just about full.
Okay.
And then we are starting the 90-day clinical accelerator as usual in very beginning of September. And then the Ocala course, and then after the Ocala course in October, there's one more 1 hour roller root canal course in December. I think it's the first week, and it's in my office in Maryland, my old office in Maryland. And if you get on the Monday Morning Dentistry website, there's like all the buttons for courses are right there. And if you click the button, it'll tell you all the dates. So I don't have the exact date in my head, but they're all right there on the website. So mondaymorningdentistry.com.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, as always, you and I just can talk for hours and hours, and we will next week. Bringing my mics and my recorder, so we will do our traditional podcast from the jungles of the Dominican Republic, usually on a rooftop or at a picnic table or something. But
rooftop last year, that was good.
We will most definitely be doing that, sometimes with an adult beverage in hand and a cigar. Sometimes, because if you're in the DR. You got to have a cigar. Interesting. Like we went to Tanzania, and it was a much different vibe because this was at a Christian kind of based hospital base where all of the dorms were inside this hospital, and the priests were living kind of in an adjacent building. Much more subdued, I would say, than our rowdy crew at the Dominican Republic. We like to play karaoke and eat snacks and play cards and sing to guitar music, sometimes late into the night in the Dominican Republic. And there was just much more just kind of quiet reflection on the Tanzania trip, which I thought was beautiful. It was just kind of like a retreat. But we needed it because we were traveling a lot and there was a lot of clinical work to be done. But I like it all. It doesn't matter if it's a party scene or if it's a super chill scene. I love working with the patients in these different areas. So yeah, man.
Yeah, they're so appreciative. It's you always feel like you said, like we got more back than what we gave.
Yeah, and I'm spoiled because I'm in the pros department. People walk in into my department and they walk out with teeth. Some people that have never had teeth ever, right? So people walk in completely edentulous, and I give them 2 full arches in half a day. So I get paid in hugs and avocados and tomatoes, and sometimes, on rare occasion, a chicken. Even though I don't eat chicken, some people will come over and give me a chicken as a thank you. It's just a beautiful thing. I can't wait, man. I'm counting the days.
Yeah, always the highlight of my year, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, in oral surgery, we get the occasional chicken or some tomatoes, but you definitely get more hugs and more stuff.
I get more hugs.
You're putting stuff in, and we're taking stuff out.
That's
appreciated.
That's right. But you're also getting people out of pain, and
it's true.
Depending on how rough the flanges are on my dentures, sometimes I'm putting people into pain. Well, cool, man. I appreciate your time as always, Aaron. I look forward to seeing you in less than a week, and then again at the end of August for the Fiji mission trip. But for everybody out there, don't get the impression that Aaron and I only meet on mission trips. I just saw you in North Carolina. I'll probably see you in October at your event. It's just one of the cool things. I have my road friends. I tell my wife this all the time. It's like all of my best friends live in different states. So
yeah,
like sometimes I'm like, I just want to grab a beer with Aaron, but you live literally on the other coast, like as far as you could possibly be from my house. But I mean, I spend more quality time with you than a lot of the people that I know that live right in my town. So that's one of the blessings of what we do.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a friend that said to me, like, everybody, people everywhere, all over the United States. I'm like, yeah, they all kind of come to this one spot, and I talk to them there, and then you get to hang out. I was on a plane. I don't remember where it was, one of the trips, and I was going to, maybe it was Arizona, and they said, "Oh, where are you going?" And I told them. They said, "Is it business or pleasure?" I'm like, "Well, it's business." And they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry." I'm like, "No, like I would go to hang out with these people even if it wasn't business. Like these are fun people to hang out with, And the guy was like, "Yeah, I know how that is. I definitely was that way right before I retired." And so we were talking a bit about that. But absolutely, a lot of my favorite people in the world are members that I see that are in other parts of the country, and I get to see them every quarter or so.
I mean, would you ever retire from this? Like, I want to do this until people aren't interested in hearing from me anymore. Like, this is like the most fulfilling, incredible stuff that we get to do.
Yeah. This is, to me, this is a lot of fun. I mean, let's face it, if it wasn't, I would have stopped a long time ago. I don't need to do this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
So no, it's great.
Exactly. All right, buddy. Well, I'll see you in a week. Hi to the cats and to your lovely bride. And, gosh, next time I see you, it'll be in Miami Airport.
Yep. Hi to Leslie and the boys, and I'll see you in Brady. Actually, I think that I'm not coming in on the same plane you guys are. I think I'm going to be seeing you in the Dominican itself. Okay. I don't think I'm coming down on that plane.
All right, meet you at the Peaches joint in the food court at the Dominican Airport.
Yep, that's it.
All right, buddy. Have an awesome day. Ladies and gentlemen,
All right, you too.
Dr. Aaron Nicholas.